My boyfriend mocked me online for working in sanitation. Then I showed his followers I was the surgeon saving lives in the rooms he cropped out. My name is Alara Whitmore. I'm 33 years old, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon. 2 years ago, I finished my residency. Since then, I've been working as an attending physician at a level 1 trauma center, fixing broken bones, torn ligaments, shattered joints, and the kind of injuries people pray their families never have to see. I spent 14 years training after high school to get here. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 5 years of residency, 1 fellowship year. I still have $287,000 in student loans, and I still drive a 2019 Civic because being a surgeon does not mean money magically appears in your bank account. Sometimes it just means you have a wall full of diplomas, a body that runs on hospital coffee, and debt that looks like a mortgage without the house. I'm saying this for context because context matters when the man you've been dating for 8 months decides to turn your life into a punchline. His name was Mason. He was a content creator. Lifestyle videos, fitness clips, brunch reviews, day-in-the-life posts filmed from flattering angles. He had around 14,000 followers and treated that number like it was a medical license. And I supported him. I held the camera when he needed natural walking shots. I pretended to be surprised when he surprised me with gifts he had already shown me off camera. I waited while my food got cold because he needed one more take of the pasta pole. At the time, I thought that was love, or at least patience dressed up as love. A few weeks before everything exploded, Mason visited me at the hospital. I had a 40-minute gap between surgeries, and he said he wanted to bring me lunch. It sounded sweet. I met him near the staff lounge wearing scrubs and a surgical cap. One of our operating rooms had been running behind because we were short-staffed, so I had been helping the OR team turn over the room between cases. I was carrying enzymatic cleaning solution and sterile wipes because no matter how many letters come after your name, an operating room still has to be clean before the next patient goes under anesthesia. Mason lifted his phone. "Hold still," he said. I barely looked up. "Why?" "You look cute," he said. "Hospital aesthetic." I laughed, tired enough to believe him. 2 nights later, I was in bed scrolling Instagram before sleep, still half numb from a long surgery day, when I saw my own face on Mason's page. Only it wasn't really my face anymore. He had cropped the photo so no one could see my hospital badge. No one could see the surgical floor behind me. No one could see the physician tag clipped near my pocket. Just me in scrubs, holding cleaning supplies. The caption said, "When your GF works in sanitation, still love her though. Not everyone can be ambitious, babe. LOL. Then the hashtags. Couple goals. Honest boyfriend. Love is love." I stared at the post until my phone dimmed in my hand. 14,000 people had access to that lie. When I opened the comments, his friends were laughing. One wrote, "Bro, you're brave. Couldn't be me." Another said, "At least she's employed." His older sister commented, "Aw, humble girls need love too." A random follower wrote, "King, you deserve a woman with goals, not a mop bucket." And Mason had replied with laughing emojis, again and again. He didn't correct anyone. Not once did he say, "Actually, she's a doctor." Not once did he say, "She's a surgeon." Not once did he even say, "This is just a joke." He let them believe I was someone he had lowered himself to love. And let me be clear, there is nothing wrong with sanitation work. My grandfather cleaned a public school for 31 years, and he was one of the hardest working people I ever knew. That wasn't what hurt. What hurt was the performance. Mason had taken a moment where I was helping my team, helping keep patients safe, helping the hospital move because people needed surgery, and he turned it into proof that I was beneath him. For engagement. For strangers. For a laugh he could monetize. I sat there for 20 minutes, not moving. My first instinct was to call him and scream, but anger makes people sloppy, and I had spent too many years in operating rooms learning that shaky hands ruin everything. So I took screenshots. The post, the caption, every comment, every reply. Then I did something I almost never do online. I commented, "Hey babe, just to clarify for everyone, I'm an orthopedic surgeon at the hospital. The cleaning supplies in this photo are enzymatic surgical cleaners I was using while helping turn over an OR between my cases. I sanitize operating rooms so surgeons like me can save lives." I added a cropped proof of my physician credentials and a screenshot from the hospital's public physician directory with anything sensitive hidden. Then I put my phone down, and I went to sleep. By morning, I had 94 notifications. His post had exploded. Not millions of views exploded, but enough. The comments had jumped from under 100 to over 900 overnight, and this time, people weren't laughing at me. They were laughing at him. Wait, you tried to clown a surgeon? She saves lives and you make gym captions. Sit down. You cropped out her badge because you knew exactly what you were doing. This is the most embarrassing cell phone I've seen all week. His best friend deleted his comment. His older sister left hers up, but added underneath, "Wait, I thought Mason said she worked for a hospital cleaning company." That comment hit differently, because that meant this was not just a bad caption. It was not one cruel joke typed without thinking. He had been lying before the post ever went up. At 7:15 that morning, Mason called me. I was already at the hospital prepping for a 7:30 case, so I let it go to voicemail. His voice came through later, half furious, half crying. "Why would you do that to me? You humiliated me in front of my whole following. You could have texted me privately. You didn't have to make me look stupid." I listened to it once, then I scrubbed in. Because a patient was waiting, and unlike Mason, I understood the difference between embarrassment and actual consequences. After surgery, around noon, I texted him. "You cropped out my badge, lied about my career, and let people mock me for 2 days. I corrected the record. If the truth makes you look bad, that's not my problem." He replied almost immediately. "You're being dramatic. It was a joke. You have no sense of humor." I looked at the message for a long moment, then typed, "Cool, we should talk in person." He answered, "Fine, tonight." And that was the moment I realized something cold and quiet inside me. I wasn't waiting for an apology anymore. I was waiting to see how deep the lie went. That evening, Mason arrived, looking like a man who had already decided he was the victim. His eyes were red, his jaw tight, his shoulders stiff with rehearsed offense. He walked into my apartment without the softness he usually performed for other people. No kiss. No apology. No hesitation. He dropped onto my couch, crossed his arms, and exhaled like he was the exhausted one. "I can't believe you did that. Not hello. Not how was surgery. Not I'm sorry. Just accusation." I stood near the kitchen counter, watching him, and something inside me shifted. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't the theatrical heartbreak people imagine. It felt more like finally seeing an X-ray after weeks of pain and realizing the fracture had been there the whole time. "Did what?" I asked. He laughed once, short and bitter. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Act innocent." That almost made me smile, because innocent was an interesting word coming from a man who had publicly lied about my career for entertainment. "You humiliated me," he said. "My DMs are a disaster. People are reacting to what you posted. It was a joke." That's what people say when something stops being funny for them. His expression hardened. "You really don't understand social media." "Explain it to me." He leaned forward, eager now, like this was familiar ground. "Content is exaggerated. That's how engagement works. Nobody actually thought you were some janitor. Your sister did." The color in his face shifted. Not enough for most people to notice, but I noticed. When you spend years reading operating room teams under pressure, you learn how much truth can live in half a second. "That's different," he said. "How?" She misunderstood. "Because you told her something untrue?" He looked away, then back. "You're making this bigger than it is." I think most women hear some version of that eventually. "You're overreacting. You're too emotional. You're making this bigger than it is." As if pain only counts when the person causing it agrees to the size of it. "You told people I work in sanitation," I said. "It was a joke. You cropped my badge. Because it ruined the framing." I repeated the words slowly. "The framing." Yes. My life had become set design. My profession was inconvenient background clutter. "Do you hear yourself?" I asked. He stood abruptly. "Do you hear yourself? You embarrassed me in front of thousands of people." "Mason, you embarrassed yourself." "No, you went nuclear instead of texting me privately." That part stayed with me. People who wound you publicly always become very protective of privacy once consequences arrive. "The post was up for 2 days," I said. "For 2 days, you watched strangers call me unambitious, lazy, beneath you. You watched them laugh and you joined in. It wasn't serious." "How would you know? You weren't the one being humiliated." For a moment, I thought something might break through. Shame, maybe. Or perspective. Or at least the version of him I thought I loved. Instead, he rubbed his temples and sighed dramatically. "I can't do this." That annoyed me more than the yelling, because it was such a clean little trick. Cause damage, then act overwhelmed by the other person's reaction. "Then explain why your sister thought I worked for a cleaning company." He froze. This time I didn't miss it. "She just assumed," he said. "No." "Yes." "No." "No, Mason." He scoffed. "Jesus, Alara. Don't use my name like I'm the unreasonable one." He paced toward the window, and then came the pivot. I would later realize this was his real talent, not content creation. Whenever truth cornered him, he changed the story. "You know what?" he said. "Maybe if you actually supported what I do, none of this would have happened." I blinked. "Excuse me? You never promote my content." You're serious. Completely. You hate filming. I've helped you film. Bare minimum. I held reflectors for an hour in 90-degree weather. You acted annoyed. Because I was post-call and hadn't slept. That's exactly what I mean. I let out a tired laugh. Mason, I reconstruct broken bodies for a living. And I'm building a brand. He said it with such sincere conviction that for half a second, I almost admired the confidence. The kind of confidence required to compare trauma surgery with influencer content is rare. You never want to do couples content, he continued, because I value privacy. No, because you think what I do is beneath you. That stopped me. Because there it was. Not my thought. His. You think that? I said quietly. He shook his head. No, I think you judge me. You made up a story where I was socially beneath you, and now you're accusing me of secretly believing I'm above you. He had no answer. He grabbed his jacket. Forget it. No, I said, answer me. This conversation is toxic. The word landed exactly where he wanted it to land. It was supposed to make me doubt myself. It didn't. I suddenly felt profoundly tired. Not surgery tired, not physical tired. The deeper kind, the kind that arrives when your heart starts catching up to what your mind already knows. I thought about every time he needed the perfect photo, every time dinner got cold because the lighting wasn't right, every time a moment stopped being a moment and became material. Maybe I had never been his partner. Maybe I had just been useful content with a pulse. I inhaled slowly. I need a few days. What? To think. His expression shifted from offended to hurt to strategic. You're seriously punishing me over a joke? No, I'm deciding whether this relationship is built on respect. That landed harder than shouting would have. He left angry, closing the door harder than necessary. Afterward, my apartment felt too quiet, but not peaceful. It felt like the silence after a performance ends and the stage lights are still hot. I wanted to believe the worst was over, that we had had the fight, seen the ugliness, reached the bottom. But some people don't stop when they lose control of the room. They find a bigger audience. 2 days later, my friend Ava texted me, check Mason's stories right now. I opened Instagram between cases, and there he was. Tearful, soft lighting, black hoodie, carefully tired eyes. The visual language of internet suffering. The first story was a screenshot of hateful DMs with no context. The next was a selfie video. I made one mistake, he said softly, one stupid joke. And apparently that means I deserve this. Then came a text slide. When someone who claims to love you chooses public humiliation instead of private communication. Then, mental health matters. Then, be kind. Then, not every story has both sides. I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because sometimes disbelief needs somewhere to go. Apparently there were two sides, his and fiction. A few slides later, he posted another video, this one shakier, more vulnerable, or maybe just better rehearsed. People don't understand what it feels like to be emotionally attacked online. Emotionally attacked. As if the original attack had happened to him. As if he hadn't staged the entire thing. As if I had hacked his account and invented the caption myself. I sat in the staff lounge watching this man perform pain with the same focus he once used to explain camera angles over brunch. What disturbed me wasn't just the lying. It was how quickly he adapted. No pause, no moral confusion, just immediate rebranding. The comments underneath were split now. Some people had seen the original post. Others had only seen his edited version. And that's the thing about the internet. Truth does not always arrive first. Whoever tells the cleaner emotional story first usually wins temporary sympathy. Poor guy. Public humiliation is abuse. She sounds toxic. Imagine dating someone this cruel. I put my phone down, then picked it back up again because part of me still couldn't believe what I was seeing. Then his mother started calling. I let it go to voicemail. Then again, then again. Finally, after my last consult, I called her back. She didn't say hello. I have never been so disappointed in someone. That sentence would have carried more weight if she had known me beyond holiday dinners and polite small talk. You humiliated my son publicly, she said. He posted the lie publicly. He was joking. Then why did he tell his sister I worked in hospital sanitation? Silence. Then, sharper. That's not the point. When someone says that, it usually means the point is devastating. The point, she continued, is that a loving partner protects their person. I asked, did Mason show you the original post? A pause. No. Of course not. He showed me enough. No, I said quietly. He showed you what helped him. Her voice hardened. You sound arrogant. Women who speak calmly while defending themselves often get translated into arrogant by people who expected them to apologize. You're damaging his brand, she said. There it was. Not his integrity, not his behavior. His brand. Your son lied about my profession to thousands of people. It was content. The casualness of that sentence stunned me. In that family, apparently, content worked like a magic excuse. He lied? Content. He humiliated someone? Content. He manipulated context? Content. I said, I'm in between surgeries, so unless there's something new, you owe him an apology. I ended the call. 10 minutes later, his father texted, real women don't emasculate their men publicly. Handle private matters privately. I stared at that message longer than I should have. The hypocrisy was almost elegant. Their son could degrade me publicly for entertainment, but when I corrected the lie, suddenly dignity became sacred. Then came the message I didn't expect, from Mason's sister, the same one who had commented publicly. I owe you an apology, she wrote. Mason told us you worked for a hospital cleaning company. I had no idea you were a surgeon. I read it twice, then a third time, because some moments don't feel real immediately, not because they're confusing, but because they clarify too much at once. I typed back, how long has he been saying that? Her response came quickly. Since early in the relationship, I think. Months. Months. The post wasn't impulsive cruelty. It wasn't bad judgment. It wasn't one stupid joke. It was continuity. I asked why. She took longer to answer this time. Honestly, I think he struggles when he feels smaller than the person he's dating. Then the next message came. His ex had a similar issue. My eyes narrowed. What do you mean? She worked in finance. He used to tell people she was just some bank employee. It caused huge problems. I sat frozen under the hospital's fluorescent light. Suddenly, everything made sense. The obsession with optics, the strange competitiveness I had dismissed as ambition, the way he always needed a little superiority in conversations, even when it appeared harmless. Love reveals character, but sometimes it reveals what the other person has been trying to hide from themselves. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. And once you recognize a pattern, love starts feeling less like devotion and more like self-betrayal. That was the real ending for me. Not the caption, not the argument, not even the lies. The real ending happened in a hospital break room, while I held my phone and realized the humiliation had never been accidental. That night I called him, not because I wanted closure. Most of the time, closure is just one person asking questions. The other person has already proven they'll lie to answer. I called because I was done. He answered on the second ring. Elara. His voice was softer now, measured, almost relieved, like he thought my silence meant I had cooled down. We need to end this, I said. A pause. What? I know you've been lying to your family about what I do. The silence on his end was immediate and sharp. Then he said, too quickly, who told you that? Not denial. Not confusion. Identification of the leak. That alone told me enough. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. No, Mason, it doesn't. Elara, seriously, who? I sat at my dining table, looking at the city lights reflected in the window. 8 months. Only 8 months. Funny how betrayal can age a relationship overnight. You told people I worked in hospital sanitation. That's not... You told them I didn't finish college. He exhaled. It's not what it sounds like. Then explain. He started fast. Too fast. I was going to tell them eventually. Eventually. As if delayed honesty deserved partial credit. 8 months, I said. I didn't know how. You didn't know how to say your girlfriend is a surgeon? It's more complicated than that. No, I said softly. I don't think it is. Then he said something I'll probably remember for a long time. You make people feel small. I leaned back, not wounded exactly, just struck by how revealing it was. Not I lied. Not I was insecure. Not I handled it badly. No, somehow I was responsible for the size of him. How? I asked. You don't even realize you do it. Vague accusations are useful when someone doesn't have facts. They give smoke the shape of evidence. I've supported you. This isn't about support. Then what is it about? He hesitated. And in that hesitation, I think the real answer lived. Finally, he said, you always seem like you have everything together. That almost broke my heart more than the insult. Because that is one of the cruel myths about competent women. People see the white coat, the degree, the steady hands, and they assume composure means immunity. They don't see the exhaustion, the fear after a difficult case, the loans, the second guessing, the sleeplessness, the way you cry in the shower because you still have to function afterward. Strength is not the absence of pain. Sometimes it is pain with discipline. So you lied because I intimidated you? I asked. Don't say it like that. How should I say it? It wasn't intentional. Mason! What? Did you tell people your ex worked a smaller job too? Long pause. Then, why are you talking to my sister? That answered the question. I breathed in slowly. I can't be with someone who needs to shrink me to feel bigger. His breathing changed. You're seriously ending this? Yes. Over this? That wording nearly made me laugh. As if this were a parking disagreement. Not months of deception. not public humiliation, not weaponized victimhood, not his family pressuring me to apologize for telling the truth. Not over this, I said, because of who you've shown yourself to be. Then came the crying. Real or performed, I don't know. Maybe both. Even manipulative people feel pain. That doesn't make them safe. Alara, please, I love you. That hurt, not because I believed it, but because part of me wanted to. That is the cruel thing about endings. Your intelligence can arrive before your heart catches up. Love doesn't leave immediately, just because trust does. I was going to fix this, he said. When? I don't know. Exactly. Please don't do this. I already am. Then sadness failed, and anger arrived. So that's it? Yes. You're throwing this away. No, I'm refusing to keep carrying something broken. He went quiet, then cold. Fine, if that's what you want. It is. Then don't contact me again. I almost laughed at that. The wounded ego always wants authorship, even at the end. But I let him have it. Okay. Then I hung up. For a long time, I sat there without crying. Heartbreak is less cinematic than people think. Sometimes it doesn't feel like shattering. Sometimes it feels like emotional anesthesia, numb, because your body knows the pain is coming. The tears came later in the shower, because of course they did. That's where women cry, when they still have things to do afterward. By morning, something had changed. I didn't miss him exactly. I missed who I thought he was. That distinction matters, because grieving a fantasy is different from grieving a person. I thought the breakup would end things. That was naive. Men like Mason don't fear losing relationships. They fear losing control of the story. A week later, my department chief called me into his office. Dr. Warren had been practicing medicine for over 30 years, the kind of physician whose calm could bring an entire hallway down by 10 degrees. He asked me to close the door, and my stomach tightened before I even sat down. Something came through patient relations, he said. He turned his monitor slightly. An anonymous complaint had been sent to the hospital's general feedback inbox. No patient issue, no clinical concern, no specific incident. Just vague language about publicly unprofessional conduct, online hostility, and behavior inconsistent with physician professionalism. No name, no proof. But I recognized the voice. People have fingerprints in language. Mason overused words like furthermore when he wanted to sound intelligent. He leaned on passive voice when he wanted distance from accountability. I had edited enough of his captions to know how he tried to sound serious. Dr. Warren watched my face. Is this connected to what happened online? I nodded. It's my ex-boyfriend, almost certainly. He read the attached screenshots I had already saved, because some part of me had known better than to trust things would stay contained. I showed him the original post, my comment, the timeline, and the messages that followed. He folded his hands. This has nothing to do with patient care. No. Nothing clinical? No. He nodded once. Then it's personal noise. I'll make sure administration understands that. Focus on your patients. That was it. No interrogation. No disciplinary threat. No panic. Just professional adults recognizing nonsense when it walked in wearing formal shoes. Still, I left his office feeling sick. Because once someone tries to interfere with your livelihood, the breakup becomes something else. Work is not just a paycheck when it has cost you years of your life. My profession was built from missed holidays, anatomy labs, exam failures, debt, fear, discipline, and thousands of hours most people never see. You don't casually attack something someone built molecule by molecule. At least decent people don't. That evening, I sat in my apartment with a bowl of pasta I barely touched, watching the city glow like nothing had happened. I kept thinking about how people cross lines, not all at once. Inch by inch, a small lie, a bigger lie, a public joke, a victim post, a family campaign, a workplace complaint. Nobody becomes dangerous in one decision. They become dangerous when every decision is excused. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered, Elara? Mason. Why are you contacting me? Before you hang up, I just wanted to talk. About? Things got out of hand. That phrase irritated me immediately. Things do not simply get out of hand. People put them there. Did you contact my hospital? I asked. A pause. No. A lie so immediate it almost impressed me. Mason. What? I know how you write. Silence. Then irritation. You think everything is about you. No, I think you're panicking because consequences finally exist outside Instagram. You don't know what you're talking about. Then why are you calling? He exhaled sharply. Because you're ruining my life. There it was again. Accountability translated into victimhood. I ruined your life? Yes. My correction ruined your life? You humiliated me. No, Mason, your behavior embarrassed you. You don't understand what this has done to me. For a second, I almost felt pity. To someone who lives through public validation, humiliation probably does feel catastrophic. But pain does not become innocence just because it feels real. Did you try to interfere with my career? No. Last chance. He snapped. Oh my God, Alara, not everything needs to be some morality lecture. There he was, the polished vulnerability gone, the raw entitlement underneath. You publicly made me look like a joke. You lied. You could have handled it privately. You posted it publicly. You're obsessed with being right. People often call women obsessed with being right when what they mean is, you refuse to quietly absorb mistreatment. Then he said the sentence that explained everything. You think you're better than everyone because you're a doctor. I went still. Not because it was true. Because it was honest. This had never been about content, or misunderstanding, or one bad joke. It was resentment wearing different outfits. I never thought that. Sure. I never made you smaller. You didn't have to. And there it was. He had done that himself. He just wanted me to carry the blame. That's not my responsibility, I said. So that's it? Yes. You're really choosing this? I'm choosing peace. He laughed coldly. Good luck with that. Then he hung up. Strangely, I felt lighter afterward. Sometimes closure isn't an apology. Sometimes it is hearing the truth someone has been disguising for months. 10 days after the breakup, I was between surgeries, standing in the physician lounge with coffee that had already gone cold, when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The message opened, and for a second, I genuinely thought it was satire. A list. Itemized. With dollar amounts. Mason wanted reimbursement for a cologne gift he had given me for my birthday. Dinners he had voluntarily paid for during the relationship. A Bluetooth speaker that was mine before I ever met him. And then the final line, emotional distress and wasted time, $1,200. I stared at the screen, then laughed. Not graceful laughter, the kind that escapes when reality briefly becomes parody. Priya, one of my colleagues, looked over from across the room. You okay? I held up my phone. My ex just invoiced me for dating him. She blinked, then burst out laughing so hard she nearly spilled her tea. Please tell me that's fake. I wish. Absurdity can be strangely clarifying. When someone behaves that irrationally, you stop romanticizing the past. You stop asking whether you were too harsh. You stop putting your own empathy on trial. I forwarded the message to one of my closest friends from med school, Daniel, who now practiced corporate law. His reply came in under 3 minutes. I laughed so hard I scared my paralegal. This has zero legal standing. Block the number. So I did. Still, I boxed up the cologne, the hoodie he had left at my apartment, a charger, a water bottle, and a random gym shirt. Not because he deserved ceremony, but because I wanted no lingering debris. That is one of the less poetic truths about ending relationships. Sometimes closure looks less like profound conversation and more like putting someone's leftovers in cardboard. I mailed the package to his parents' house. No note. No emotional essay. Just logistics. 2 days later, I got another call from a different number. His mother. She came in already offended. You mailed his things in a box? Yes. Like he meant nothing? That was an interesting accusation from the woman defending a son who had tried to sabotage my profession. Your son tried to interfere with my career. Silence. Then, for the first time, uncertainty entered her voice. What are you talking about? That caught my attention. You didn't know? No. So I told her about the anonymous hospital complaint, about the timing, about the invoice. The emotional distress bill nearly stopped her breathing. That can't be real. It's real. After a long pause, she said, I think there's been some misunderstanding. People love misunderstanding when facts become uncomfortable. No, I said calmly, there really hasn't. And because I was suddenly too tired to keep participating in their family's fiction, I told her everything. Your son told you I worked in hospital sanitation. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. He told you I made around $40,000. He told you I didn't finish college. I have a medical degree, a fellowship, and a public listing on the hospital physician directory. He has walked past my diplomas in my home office more times than I can count. The silence became so long I pulled the phone away to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Then her voice came back smaller. That doesn't make sense. No, I said, it doesn't. And honestly, that was probably the most truthful conversation we ever had. I continued. Your son lied to 14,000 followers. He lied to his own family. He publicly mocked my profession. Then someone tried to contact my hospital after I ended the relationship. I didn't create this situation. I corrected it. She whispered, almost to herself, why would he do that? There is a dangerous temptation after betrayal to explain someone's cruelty for them, to make it emotionally coherent so it hurts less. But I had spent enough of my life diagnosing fractures. I didn't need to diagnose his soul. I don't know, I said, and I'm no longer interested in finding out. Before hanging up, I said one final thing. My name is publicly listed in the hospital directory. You can verify it yourself. Then I ended the call. Afterward, I sat in total silence. Not triumphant, not satisfied, just still, because truth does not always feel victorious. Sometimes it simply feels necessary. A week later, Mason's sister reached out again. She was the only person in that family who had shown any relationship with reality. You were telling the truth, she wrote. Then, everything blew up here. We spoke that evening, and what she told me explained more than I expected. After my conversation with his mother, she looked me up. The physician directory, my credentials, my hospital listing, all public, verifiable in under 2 minutes. And once the first lie collapsed, everything else started collapsing with it. That's what happens with chronic dishonesty. People don't just question the specific lie. They reopen every emotional file, every old story, every version of events, every memory they once accepted because they loved you. His mother confronted him hard. Mason apparently tried the same playbook. Tears, deflection, context, stress, misunderstanding. But this time it didn't land. Then came the twist. His ex-girlfriend, the one who worked in finance. Apparently, his mother reached out through mutual connections and learned that the breakup story Mason had told them was also fiction. He had painted himself as misunderstood, belittled, emotionally mistreated. But according to what they learned, it ended for essentially the same reason. He diminished her professionally, misrepresented her, resented her success, the exact same emotional choreography. Suddenly, everything about Mason made tragic sense. Some people lie because reality threatens the version of themselves they need others to believe. That doesn't excuse it. It just explains why the lie keeps repeating. His sister said something that stayed with me. I love my brother, but I don't think I trust him anymore. That sentence carried a kind of grief only family understands. Romantic disappointment hurts, but family dishonesty destabilizes memory. It changes how you hear everything going forward. I felt for her, genuinely. She hadn't asked for any of this. Then she told me his sponsorship opportunities had started disappearing. Not dramatically, quietly. Brands don't like instability, especially when audiences start tagging them in controversy. I had nothing to do with that. I never contacted anyone. I never retaliated. The internet simply did what it always does. It rewarded spectacle, then punished inconsistency. Through all of it, something strange happened inside me. I stopped feeling angry. Not because what happened became okay, but because anger requires emotional closeness, and by then, Mason already felt far away. Less like a loss, more like a lesson I had paid for with 8 months of my life. The week after that, I performed a total knee replacement on a 72-year-old retired teacher who hadn't walked without pain in 3 years. The next day, during physical therapy, she stood up with help, took 2 careful steps, and started crying. Her daughter cried too. Then she hugged me so tightly I barely knew what to do with my hands. You gave us our mom back, she said. And there it was. The life Mason had tried to reduce to a punchline. Not the title, not the salary, not the prestige people imagine when they hear surgeon. The work, the responsibility, the privilege of helping someone return to a body they thought had betrayed them. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. My student loans are still enormous. My civic still runs fine. My diplomas are still on the wall. I'm not dating anyone right now, and I'm not in a rush. But the next person I love will know exactly what I do. Not because being a surgeon makes me better than anyone else, but because respect should not require cropping out the truth. Every honest job deserves dignity. Every person deserves a partner who does not need to make them smaller to feel worthy. And if anyone ever asks what I do for a living, I know exactly what I'm going to say. I sanitize operating rooms so surgeons like me can save lives.